What is going on, guys? Welcome to my video. I'll be talking about each top 25 game this weekend and predicting each score of each game. So before I get into this video, if you like my videos and content that I've been posting, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and also hit the notifications so you can get updates on whenever I post my new videos. But starting off with the first game of the day, number 4, Florida State at Wake Forest. This is a get-right game for Florida State. I say get-right game for them because last time they played a game at this time was against a bad Boston College team and they almost lost. They're playing away at Wake Forest just like they played at Boston College. It's going to be a tough game for them, but I still got Florida State winning this 35-17. I think Florida State's a good team. Wake Forest is not a terrible team. I think they'll battle for a little bit, but Florida State's too good. Wake Forest will cover, but Florida State wins it pretty easily. Next game is number 6 Oklahoma at Kansas. I got Oklahoma in this game 38-31. I think Kansas will keep it close. They got blown out by Texas 40-14. It was also a game where they didn't have their quarterback, and Kansas has got a lot better since then. I think Kansas will play better against Oklahoma, and Kansas is not a bad team either. Oklahoma showed that they can struggle last week. They almost lost to UCF, so 38-31 is my prediction on that game. I have Kansas covering. I think it will be another close game for Oklahoma. Don't count these Big 12 teams out. They're not going to be easy to beat. Next game is Indiana at number 10 Penn State. This is going to be a bounce back game for Penn State. They had a tough game at Ohio State last weekend, in a game that they could not get anything going on offense. They got one final drive together on the last drive of the game. They only scored 12 points the whole game. Penn State, they just really lack on the offensive side and making big plays, but their defense is really good. It has been all year. It's what put them in the top 10. It's what made them go undefeated going into that Ohio State game. So I do have Penn State winning this game 38-7. In the next game, number 1 Georgia at Florida. Both teams coming off bye weeks. I think Florida will be in this game for the most part. I think Florida will compete with Georgia. Definitely when Georgia doesn't have Brock Bowers, the best player on their team. But Florida is not a bad team. They're an average team, but they're 5-2. It's still a decent record being you're in the SEC. You got a good win against Tennessee, but you got demolished by Kentucky. But Georgia's going to be too talented for Florida. They win this game 31-17. Florida will cover this game. A lot of these games I'm picking the underdog because I just feel like the underdogs are going to keep the games a little closer this week. I think a lot of the point spreads are a little bit too high. There's a lot of top teams playing like 5-2 teams who are like just outside the top 25. You got Oklahoma playing Kansas. You got Texas playing BYU. BYU's not bad. You got Georgia playing Florida, who's just outside the top 25. You also got the game that I'll be talking about next. BYU at number 7 Texas. I got Texas winning this game 35-31. I think Texas is going to have struggles with this BYU team. BYU's actually a pretty good football team. They're really not that bad of a football team. I do have Texas winning this game. But just like Oklahoma, Texas and Oklahoma both have kind of tough schedules. I mean, they're not playing any top 25 teams, but it's not going to be cakewalk games. It's going to be a good fight. BYU's got a good enough offense to keep them in this game, and I think Texas, without Quinn Ewers, they're going to struggle a little bit. I know their backup quarterback. He's been in games before. He's not a bad player, but still, he's been rusty. He hasn't started all year, so I mean, it's a good chance, a good moment for Texas backup quarterback to shine, but I think he will bring out a decent game, but I still got Texas only winning by 4. On to the next game, number 8 Oregon at number 13 Utah. This is going to be a pretty good game. It's game day. It's game of the week. It's going to be at Utah. Oregon struggles to play at Utah. And they struggle with Utah in general. I mean, a couple years ago they lost to them twice. But this is different because Oregon, they're legit this year. They have a good offense, running the ball and passing the ball, and their defense isn't bad either. But Utah, they've proved a lot of people wrong this year. A lot of people probably thinking they should be 4-3, 5-2, but they're still 6-1. They got a good win against USC. Their defense has played really good, but their offense really does struggle. I will give it some credit because it has improved a little bit, but I do have Oregon winning this game, 31-20. On to the next game, Pitt at number 14, Notre Dame. This is going to be a bounce back game for Notre Dame. And by when I say bounce back, I'm not talking like I know you got win the last time you played, you got to win. But this is different for Notre Dame. They finally have an easier game. I think they win this. They could win this by more, but I only have them winning by 14 just because Pitt always plays them tough. But I still got Notre Dame winning pretty convincingly. I don't think it will be as close as the score, which I have 35-21, Notre Dame winning by 14. On to the next game. Number 20, Duke at number 18, Louisville. This is going to be a great game. Two teams that were in the contention for the ACC championship. They still are. But they both have a loss. Duke has 2 losses, but I do think Duke is the better team even though they have 2 losses. Riley Leonard, I don't know if he'll play this weekend, but even if he doesn't play, I think Duke's defense is good enough to get the job done. And I wouldn't be surprised if Riley Leonard does play. I do have Duke winning this game 30-24. I don't think Louisville is anything special. They had their best game of the whole year against Notre Dame. They blew him out. They beat him. But they're not going to play like that again. That was Louisville's Super Bowl. That was the only game that made me think they were good all season. Because I didn't think they were that good all season. I mean, they're a decent team. But I feel like they're overhyped after that Notre Dame game. Even though they won that. And, I mean, you got to give them credit. But every other game they play this year, they look like crap. I don't want to say they look like crap. But they barely won the games. They barely beat Georgia Tech. They barely beat, what was the team they played? NC State. They barely beat NC State. They had a couple close games, but they did win. But then they lose 38-20 against Pitt, and that kind of just settled it for me. Why is Louisville a top team? Why did they beat Notre Dame? I don't understand how they beat Notre Dame. I had Notre Dame winning that. But I guess it does make sense because Notre Dame was super tired going into that game. Playing 2 ranked teams before them. They played Ohio State and Duke back to back. That's a tough schedule. Playing 2 physical teams like that. Then they got to play a whole different team, Louisville. And Louisville really brought it to them. It was their home game. And they're not going to play like that again this season. So I got Duke winning 30-24. Next game is number 22, Tulane at Rice. Now, I picked North Texas to cover against Tulane last week, and I was right. I'm going to pick Rice to cover against Tulane this week. I think Tulane, the spreads for their game have been a little bit too high. Tulane's not that great. I mean, they're decent, but they're not as good as they were last year, in my opinion. But I think Rice, they will bring it to Tulane, but I think Tulane will win 35-28, which is the same score prediction I had last week. So, on to the next game, number 24, USC at California. I have USC winning this game 44-27. I think USC needs a big win, and not just a big win, a double-digit win against Cal to really get themselves back in the picture of we are good. Because a lot of people, USC was like a top 5 team at one point. They were number 5. A lot of people knew they shouldn't have been there. But then there's people saying they shouldn't be in the top 25, which I don't agree with. I know their defense is terrible, but their offense, it does its own to get them in the top 25. I still think they're a top 25 team, but they're not a top 15 team. But USC, they can prove a lot of people wrong in this game. Or they can prove a lot of stuff to people in this game if they beat Cal pretty good, because Cal's not a bad team. I do have USC winning this game by 17. And they're playing at Cal too, so their last 2 games, I mean, it's not like they lost to bad teams. They lost to Utah and Notre Dame. Utah and Notre Dame doesn't have any special offenses. Their offenses aren't that good, but their defenses do the job. Their defenses are good. They're both top 20 teams. They're both decent teams. Utah and Notre Dame are both in my top 15. I think they're good teams. USC, they're getting a lot of hate. They're getting too much hate where I think they need a little bit more praise. I don't think they're a great team, but outside of the top 25 might be saying a little bit too much. Now, if they lose to Cal, everybody can say I'm wrong. But they still got a tough schedule. Play Oregon or Washington. They might be an 8-4 team. If they go 8-4, there's probably still going to be in my top 25 near the bottom. I figure they'll lose to Oregon or Washington, but we'll see. On to the next game, number 5, Washington at Stanford. I got Washington winning this game 42-10. Washington needs to bounce back, or else there's going to be some questions on this team. Washington really does need to bounce back. After that win against Oregon, a lot of people thought Washington's going to come out. They're going to beat the crap out of Arizona State, but they scored 3 points all the way up to the fourth quarter, where in the fourth quarter they scored 12 points to win the game. They only won by 8. It was 15-7. That was very scary. That was pathetic. I'm rooting for Washington. I'm rooting for the Pac-12. I don't want to see Washington lose. And I want to see Washington and Oregon in a rematch where the winner gets in. That would be great. But if Washington would have lost to ASU, that would have been a tough story for Washington making the playoffs. It would have been tough. But Washington needs this game. I still think they have a shot at the playoffs and winning it all, honestly. But a lot of people saying Washington 2019 LSU vibes? Nah, I don't see it. I don't think you should be comparing this team to 2019 LSU after that last game they had. LSU did not have a game that bad. But who knows. Number 19, Air Force at Colorado State is the next game. I got Air Force winning this in a lower scoring game, 27-12. I think it's going to be a weird scoring game. Maybe some field goals, maybe a safety. It's going to be a little colder. It's going to be an in-state game. It's kind of a rivalry. I never really looked at Air Force and Colorado as a rivalry because I wasn't really into college football too much before this season. I didn't know Air Force was in Colorado until I was looking at who the best team in Colorado was, and it's not Colorado, it's Air Force. Air Force is the best team in Colorado. They've proved a lot to people this year that they are good. They're undefeated, and they have a chance to go 12-0, 11-1. They have a chance to make a New Year's Six Bowl, which is big. On to the next game, number 21, Tennessee at Kentucky. I think this is going to be a close game. Kentucky's, I think they're coming off a bye week. And Tennessee, they're coming off a loss to Alabama where they blew a big lead. It wasn't a huge lead, but they got outscored 27-0 in the second half. I don't think Kentucky's that good, but I think they will keep this game close. It'll be 35-31. That's my prediction. Tennessee winning the game. The next game, number 3, Ohio State at Wisconsin. I got Ohio State winning this game 28-14. Now, Ohio State, I don't think they're going to score a lot on Wisconsin. I only have them scoring 28 because their offense it's not that explosive. I mean, it could be 21-14. But I'm giving Ohio State a little bit of credit. I think they are a good team. But their offense, it's not super explosive. They lack a little bit on the offensive side. But their defense might be the best defense in all of college football. Might. But that's a might, not guaranteed. Michigan has a good defense. Georgia has a good defense. There's a lot of good defenses in college football. But Ohio State is a good team. They got Marvin Harrison Jr. on the offensive side. He gets the job done, but they just don't score a lot of points. And Wisconsin, they have a pretty good defense. So I think Wisconsin will keep themselves in this game. And their offense, it's only going to score 14 points in my eyes. It's just Ohio State's defense is just too good. I got Ohio State winning 28-14. Wisconsin barely covering. Wisconsin's another underdog that I have covering. And another underdog that I have covering against a top 15 team is Vanderbilt. On the Vanderbilt at number 12, Ole Miss. I got Ole Miss only winning 40-17. The spread was 25.5. I don't think Vanderbilt's going to get beat by like 30. They haven't got beat by 30 like all season. They've only lost by like 20. They've been pretty decent. I mean, they're not good at all, but they're keeping themselves from getting blown out. Georgia, they should have got blown out by Georgia. It should have been like 60-0, but Georgia was playing in Vanderbilt's newly renewed stadium. So, I mean, I can't say too much about Georgia and how crappy they played against Vanderbilt because Brock Bowers did get hurt too. But give credit to Vanderbilt for staying in that game, and I think they will stay in this game a little bit, but still not going to be close. 40-17, Ole Miss wins. On to the next game. Colorado at number 23, UCLA. I got Colorado winning this game outright. I may sound stupid. I may not. It just depends on how good you think Colorado is and how good you think UCLA is. But I have Colorado winning 31-28. I don't think UCLA is a great team. They do have a good defense. Their offense played pretty good against Stanford, but it's Stanford. I mean, Stanford did just beat Colorado. But Stanford also played a really good offensive game in the second half. I think Colorado was a little bit too confident. It was Travis Hunter's first game back, and he just got absolutely demolished by Stanford's receiver. But Colorado coming off the bye week, having Travis Hunter fully healthy, having their team pumped up coming off the bye week, this is a big game for them on the road. I think Colorado wins it 31-28. I think Dante Moore isn't at his best yet. He's not going to be at his best for a little while, but UCLA, they're going to be good in a couple years. They're young, they have a good quarterback, and their defense is really good. Number 17, North Carolina at Georgia Tech. North Carolina's on upset alert because you got to look at how they. It's a pattern. North Carolina, they start the season pretty good. They have a couple questionable games, but they're still undefeated, and then they lose. And then they lose again. And then they lose again. That's just how they've been. They haven't broke the edge of being the second or third best ACC team yet. They're still kind of trying to get up to being the best ACC team, but they're not there yet. I do still think North Carolina wins this game 35-31, but I think Georgia Tech's going to give them a test. Georgia Tech has played a couple teams close this year. They beat Miami too. Georgia Tech's not a terrible team. So give props to Georgia Tech. Keeping this game close, but North Carolina wins it. Next game is Old Dominion at number 25, James Madison. I got James Madison winning this game 31-22. I'm impressed with James Madison. Their defense, they're like leading in sacks, I'm pretty sure. Or they're top 5 in sacks. I know they're top 5 in sacks. But their defense in general is really good. Here's the problem though. This team can't even play a bowl game. So they're not gonna. They're just playing for wins. And then there's nothing after that until next season. I feel bad for this team. You guys have worked so hard, you're undefeated, and you can't even play a bowl game. They just play their 12 regular season games and then they're done. And everybody else gets to play bowl games when James Madison is probably better than half those teams. But Old Dominion, I think they'll keep this game a little closer. James Madison is due to lose a game this season. I don't think it's in this game. They have this game at home, coming off a big win. They're a top 25 team. I think they win this. They need to win this to prove a point to everybody. But James Madison wins this 31-22. And on to the last game of the day. Or of the night, I should say. It's a night game. 10:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Pacific Time. Number 11, Oregon State at Arizona. This is going to be an interesting game. A lot of people don't know how good Arizona is if you don't really watch the Pac-12, you don't know how good Arizona is. Arizona is good. If they're in any other conference, if they're in the Big 12, they probably only have like 2 or 1 loss. But Arizona is a good team. Their offense has been pretty good. Their whole team's been pretty good. They played USC tough. They also played Washington tough. It was 31-24 in that game, which is also what I have this score, but I have Oregon State winning 31-24. I've been very impressed with Oregon State this season. I don't think they're getting enough credit. They have 1 loss, and I feel like they should have won that game against Washington State. It was at Washington State too. They had a terrible first half. They just got completely demolished in the secondary. But I don't think Oregon State's defense is not that bad. I really don't think it's that bad. It has its ups and downs, but it can make big plays. And it's really good up front. It just has some issues in the secondary. But I do have Oregon State winning this game 31-24. I think they're good enough to win this. And I think they're good to battle with Oregon and Washington. They might beat Oregon, they might beat Washington. And they're not out of the Pac-12 picture. So give props to Oregon State. Watch out for this team. They're a sleeper team. They really are. So that will be it for my video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment. Like the video. Subscribe. I'm really trying to work on this channel and posting a lot. I love posting videos. I like college football. So just gotta keep improving, and peace out, guys.